Have you ever watched your child compete in a sport and somehow felt like you were the one that was actually competing? Because last weekend, I just watched my daughter compete at the USA Diving Nationals, and her 3-meter competition didn't go the way that we had hoped. Actually, it didn't go well at all, and I was crushed. Not just a little disappointed, I mean, genuinely emotionally upset. And afterwards, I found myself thinking, Nikki, why are you this upset? You were not the one standing on that diving board. You didn't do the dives and you didn't get the scores. This was not your competition. Except somehow it felt like it was. And if you're a sports mom, I have a feeling that you know exactly what I'm talking about because we love to say things like, it's just a game. I just want my kids to have fun. As long as they're trying their best, that's all that matters. But then our kids step onto the soccer field, onto the basketball court, the gymnastics floor, a baseball diamond, a diving board, and suddenly we're sitting in the stands like our entire future depends upon what happens in the next 3 minutes. So, why? Why do our kids' wins feel so good? And why can their losses hurt us so badly? That is what I want to talk about today. So, welcome to Struggle and Strength Moms Balancing It All with Nikki, the podcast where we talk about the real struggles of motherhood, raising kids, careers, dreams, and somehow trying to keep ourselves together through all of it. And today, we need to talk about sports moms because apparently I'm one of them. And I have some feelings. Okay, I have a lot of feelings. So, let me give you some context around all of this. My daughter has put an incredible amount of work into diving this year. And when you have a child in competitive sports, their sport doesn't just mean something because they do. It becomes something that the entire family does, right? There's practices, meets, schedules, travel, hotels, food, the whole shebang. And somehow your family calendar starts revolving around one tiny human and their needs for this sport. And someone asked, actually, one of the moms that we went on a double date with this weekend, they asked, like, "Do your kids get upset that you're focusing really and heavily on this one sport?" And because the boys, they do their sports too, but literally this summer, diving has taken over everything. And honestly, like, the boys aren't upset about the attention and, the travel and stuff that we're doing for diving. I think that they get upset because they have to be there, right? Like, they don't wanna be there for 2 hours, I don't wanna be there for 2 hours, and then, of course, like, I'm traveling or my husband's traveling with my daughter, and so we're not a family unit, and I think that's what gets kind of the, more of the issues around we're not all together, we have to go to diving, and it's in the way, right? And I mean, let's talk about the money for a second, okay? Because competitive sports, they are not cheap. I keep saying, like, this is just a money grab because honestly, they want you to do more days of diving. They want you to do more competitive, training for soccer. I mean, they wanna put you in multiple leagues for soccer and this, that, and the other, and sometimes I think that parents should just receive an award for just looking at the registration fee and clicking submit payment, okay? Because we put so much time, money, and effort into our kids' sports. It is a little ridiculous, okay? We were adding up the amount that we were spent just this summer on diving, and let me just tell you, okay, it's probably like a whole entire car I could have bought instead of going on all these trips and all this diving stuff. But, we do it. And why? Why do we do it? Because we see something in our kids, right? You see how much they love it. You see them improving. You see the confidence that the sports give them. You see the accomplishments of something that they couldn't do like 6 months ago, and now they are thriving, and suddenly, like, you're invested and you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is now becoming our lives." And you not only are you financially invested in this, but you are emotionally invested in it. And so this year, like, we have poured a tremendous amount into diving. The time, the money, the travel, the energy, the sacrifice. And most importantly, my daughter, She's worked hard. I've watched her learn these new dives in a very small, short period of time. I mean, she literally just learned 2 new dives and competed them in these national championships. Now, it was either hit or miss, and that's kind of why it was a little disappointing, but I've watched her struggle, and I've watched her improve, and I've watched her compete, and that's how it all eventually got brought to the US Diving Nationals, and it's something I should be so thrilled about, and we are so proud because USA National Diving is not easy. Like, you have to compete, and you have to get in the top 3, and there's only a couple of meets that you can do this, and so it's not like the other, um, nationals where you just have to get a score and then anybody can go as long as they get the score. You have to actually be placed 1st, 2nd, or 3rd in a couple of the meets in order to go, and so it's the cream of the crop, the top of the top. It's nationals, it's huge, and when you get to something like that, whether you mean to or not, expectations start creeping in. And you know what your kid is capable of. You've seen what they can do. You've seen the dives that they do in practice. And you know the scores that they normally get. And I think that's where things get really complicated because you're trying to be the supportive mom saying, "Just go have fun, honey. Just do your best. I'm so proud of you no matter what." But inside your head there's another mom, and that mom is doing the calculations. Right? Am I right? And you're like, "Okay, if we get this score on this dive, then what does that mean, in terms of placement?" And, her coach said we can't get anything less than a 30 on these dives, and then she gets up there and you get like a 20 and you're like, "Oh, it's okay, we'll get the next one." And the next one, she gets, a 28, and you're like, "Yes, we're almost there." We're so close. And then she gets to that dive that she just practiced and just started doing, and you're like, "It's either hit or miss, baby. You can do this." And she misses. And then basically you're like, "There goes our chances." And your heart, it just melts. It just melts in place. And then all these bad thoughts start coming in, thinking like, "Oh my gosh, we just spent $400 even just on the registration for these meets." And then, of course, with the travel, the flights, the hotels, the car rental, and you just watch it all fall apart, right? There's no other way for me to describe it. She flopped the dive, and it just wasn't her competition. And if you've ever watched your child compete long enough, you know that those days happen. There's good days, there's bad days, and unfortunately, when you're in a sport that like you're it, like there's diving or swimming or tennis or golf, it's like there's just one of them, and they get one chance, that's it. And when everything doesn't come together, when something gets off, the confidence, it changes. One mistake turns into another. And you're sitting there watching, and there's absolutely nothing that you can do. And I think that's the hardest part, right? Because moms, we're fixers, we're control freaks. Like, did the kids forget something? Like, we figure it out. Is there a problem at school? We help solve it. Someone needs to be somewhere. We make it all happen. The schedule falls apart. Give mom 5 more minutes. And we're so accustomed to being the person behind the scenes making everything work. And when your kid is competing, you can't fix it. You can't climb up there. You can't redo the dive. You can't change the scores. You can't make their little body do what you know it knows how to do. All you can do is watch. And I hated that feeling because every time something didn't go the way that I knew she knew how to do it, my heart just sank a little bit more. And when it was over, I was upset, like really upset. And that's where this episode really started for me because I had to ask myself, like, why? Why am I taking this so hard? Like, I need to be there for her. I need to be comforting her. I need to be telling her that everything's great and we're so proud of her. And I want to say those words, but I'm taking it so hard inside, thinking of all the logistics and all the money and all the time and everything leading up to this point. This wasn't my competition. Those dives weren't mine. And most importantly, it's not my dream. It's hers. And that realization hit me because as parents, I think there's this line that can get really blurry because we pour so much into helping our children chase their dreams that somewhere along the way, their dreams start feeling a little bit like ours. Like my dream for her, and I told her coach that I can't even speak. I told her coach this at our meeting this week is that our dream is for her to continue to love it and grow and develop and then get a scholarship for college and, go and have fun. I mean, could she ultimately be an Olympic diver? Maybe. I mean, it's not totally like someone asked me that, well, actually, one of the vendors that I've been working with lately, she's like, "Okay, come on, mom. Like, is this a possibility that this can go somewhere in the future?" And I was like, quite possibly it could. When she was in gymnastics, did I ever think she was gonna be in the Olympics on the gymnastics team? No. Nah, no, never, right? Like, in soccer, the kids still play soccer. Do I ever feel like they're gonna be, professional soccer players? No. No, I do not. But diving, she could very well be an Olympic diver. Tennis, the kids love tennis. Could they be a Wimbledon tennis player? I don't know. Are we to that point yet? Nope, nope, we're not. We're just starting off, but it could get that way. So nothing is off the table yet, I don't feel, for these types of sports. Now, football, baseball, like, I mean, you got to be the cream of the crop, the top of the top. But in these other sports, I love, my brother's kids, they do horseback riding, like these unique sports. I feel like there are really good potential for these kids to get scholarships, to get full rides to schools because schools are looking for these, unique sport individuals. And there's not a lot of them, I'll be honest with you. Like in this competition, she was competing with 30 other girls. Now that's nationwide. They had to get to this cream of the crop competition. And so, I mean, at the other one that we went to, there was 40 plus in her age group. Here there's 30. Now, as you get older, I mean, it goes down. They still take about 30 at this competition, but that's 30 of the best. There's apparently, according to one of the dads in diving, there's 135 schools that have dive teams. So, I mean, there's plenty of schools for her to get into. And I feel like, you know, just because this is something that is in the future for us to aim for. It's not too far off. Now, if I were to say she's gonna be a professional soccer player and I want her to get a full ride scholar, I mean, that is really wild dreams because let's be honest, my kids are not like cream of the crop, top of the top soccer players. They're just not, but they are good. I'll admit that. And I feel like at some point in our lives, like the parents that are always like, "Oh, my child's the best," and I've seen, I mean, crazy stories. I've witnessed parents going off at each other on the side of the soccer field, and it's like, "Guys, like, we are at eight-year-old soccer right here." I mean, why are we going off at each other? But I think it's like emotionally, we're so invested in our kids' sports. And that's where, like, we get kinda crazy. Like, we're these crazy parents because we've put so much time and effort and money into these sports for our kids that we get so emotional, It's like, you gotta take a step back and actually think about, is this something that my child loves? Do they want to continue doing it, or are we forcing them to do it? And is it our dream instead of theirs? If you think about it, like when your child succeeds, who knows what it took to get there? You do, right? You know all about the practice where they came home frustrated. You know all about the morning that they didn't want to go. You know about the injury that they had, the fear about jumping off the diving board. You know about the thing that they finally figured out after trying it 500 times. You know because you were there. And while they were doing the physical work, you were often building the infrastructure, the mindset, the mentality that allow them to finally do it. I know for certain there was a point in time 3 years ago where my daughter was stuck. She couldn't get past this front flip on the diving board. And I thought, "Girlfriend, if you can't even do one flip off the diving board, this is just the beginning. There's no way you're going to be able to do those other things. So you need to get in the right mindset." And I was like, "Look, you need to face your fears and just do it." And of course, I was like, "If you do, let's think about that. What do you want?" That was the summer she conned me into getting her a laptop because I was like, "If you do it without the wetsuit and without the bubbles and without stalling, you can have anything that you want." She's like, "I want a laptop." Boom. That girl got up there and she hustled me, right? But that's motherhood, right? We're behind so much of what happens in our child's lives that nobody ever sees it. And I think that is why the emotions can become so intense because one, we know that our kids are capable of it. We know their highest potential and we know what they can do. And we get so invested when they don't perform to their highest level. And then, of course, like, we know how much time and money and, like, all of the arrangements we've had to do. Like, let's talk about what it means to be a sports mom. Like, what does that actually look like? You're not just sitting in the stands cheering, right? It's looking at the calendar, figuring out how the practices are, like, how we're gonna get one child to want this practice over here, another child to this other practice. Like, it's leaving work early and racing somewhere because you've gotta get them to that practice. It's figuring out dinner at 9 o'clock at night. It's packing the bags, making sure you don't leave. We literally packed all of our bags. We're ready to go to West Virginia to this meet, and we're leaving first thing in the morning, and we wake up, and my daughter goes, "I didn't pack a single swimsuit." I'm like, "Girlie, we are going for you to dive, and you didn't pack the most important thing in your bag? How did we miss that?" We're making sure that the uniforms are clean. We're remembering the registration deadlines. We're booking the travel, paying the fees, making all the family plans so that the siblings don't have to sit there for 8 hours and watch their whole entire weekend disappear because they're having to go to this event. It's encouraging the kid who had a terrible practice and they're saying, "I don't wanna do it anymore, mommy," and you're encouraging them to say, "Baby, that was just one time, and you've done it multiple different times, and you've been successful, so let's not let that, get into our minds and not let us move forward." And then it's celebrating when something finally clicks. It's so exciting when you see them progress. I loved my time being their soccer coach because it was like taking the kids from ground zero and being able to shape and mold and develop them. And when it finally came together and we won, it was the most exhilarating, exciting thing in the world because you're seeing them progress and grow and develop. And you've been there for when they're like totally not a good player or, a good diver or whatever, like, watching the videos at the very beginning to watching them now is just like, "Oh my goodness, when did they grow up? When did they get these skills?" Like, it's so exciting. And after hundreds of those little moments, you sit down to watch them compete. So, of course, you're emotionally invested in all of it because you've been on that journey with them. But this is where I think we have to be careful because there's a difference between being invested in our child and becoming attached to their outcome. And this is when I struggle with the most because I started thinking about the real reason I was upset. Was I upset because she didn't perform well? Yeah, of course. Was I upset because I knew she was capable of more? You are absolutely right. Was I upset because I knew how much work she'd put into this summer and this whole entire year? Of course. But if I'm being completely transparent, there was another piece. I started thinking about everything that we poured into this year all the time. We were diving 3 days a week, on the weekends, going to meets, traveling, all the money, all the sacrifice. And there was this tiny voice saying, after all of that, this is how we end at nationals. And there it was, right? That was the thought that I needed to examine because without realizing it, I had connected the investment to the outcome. We invested all of this. Therefore, we should get this result. But as you all know, sports don't work that way. Life doesn't work that way. And you can do everything right and still lose. And that's the hardest part for kids, for moms, for parents, for entrepreneurs, right? It's like a roller coaster up and down, right? You can work harder than everyone else and still have a terrible day. You can prepare for months and mess up in 5 seconds. And that doesn't erase everything that happened before those 5 seconds. And this is the part that really changed my perspective. What if the return on everything we poured into diving this year was never supposed to be a medal? What if I have been measuring the wrong thing? Because look at what my daughter gained. She learned discipline, she's learned courage, she's learned how to do things that scare her. She jumped off a 5-meter diving or platform. She's about to jump up and go off the 7-meter platform. She's learned how to take coaching. She's learned how to compete. And she's learned what it feels like to succeed when she got first place at the East National Champions. And now she's learning what it feels like to work incredibly hard for something and still be disappointed. And as much as I hate watching that lesson, And I don't like to say the word hate so much, but that might be one of the most important lessons because someday it's not going to be diving. Someday she's going to want a job and she's not going to get it. She might apply to a school and get rejected. She might put everything into a relationship that doesn't work. She might start something that completely fails. She might chase a dream and fall flat on her face. And mom will not always be there to help fix it. So maybe my job right now is not to make sure she never experiences disappointment. Maybe my job is to help her learn that disappointment doesn't define you. Let me say that one more time. Disappointment doesn't define you. One bad performance doesn't erase your work. One failure doesn't mean that you are a failure. And sometimes you get back on the board. But there's another side to this. If that if that is what I want her to learn, guess who has to learn it too? That's right, moms, okay? We have to learn that disappointment does not define us. I can't tell my daughter, it's okay, one competition doesn't define you, while internally thinking, I can't believe this happened after everything we've invested. Kids are smart. They feel our disappointment. They know when our so proud of you, honey, comes with an invisible but. I'm proud of you, but you should have done better. I'm proud of you, but normally you score higher. I'm proud of you, but we spent a lot of money getting here. That's not what I want her to hear. I want her to hear, I am so proud of you. Proud of you, not your score, not your placement, not your medal, not your dive. I'm proud of you. That doesn't mean that we pretend that the competition went great because let's face it, it didn't. She did so good beyond belief in platform and her 1 meter, but her 3 meter, which is her best event, she completely flopped. And we can acknowledge that. We can talk about it. She can be disappointed. I can be disappointed. We don't have to fake positivity, but disappointment and pride can exist at the same time. And that is something I think moms need permission to feel. So, going back to my original question, why do moms get so emotional about kids' sports? Why does it sometimes feel like we are the ones playing? Because in some ways, we've been playing a supportive role the entire time. We've invested, we've sacrificed, we've hoped, we've worried, we've watched, and most of all, we love them. Their joy brings us joy. Their pain hurts us. Their excitement excites us. Their heartbreak breaks our hearts. And that's motherhood. But maybe part of raising independent, resilient kids is learning when to step back emotionally and say, this is your journey. I will support you. I will drive you. I will cheer ridiculously loud for you. I will probably spend way too much money. I will hug you when it gets horrible. I will celebrate when it goes amazingly, but the outcome belongs to you. And my love for you doesn't change based on either one. And I think this is today's struggle and strength. The struggle is watching our children experience something we've desperately wished we could fix. It's seeing all that work not produce the result they wanted. It's realizing how much of ourselves we've emotionally invested in their journey. And sometimes it's admitting that their disappointment becomes our disappointment too. But the strength is remembering what we're actually raising. We're not raising medals, we're not raising trophies or scores. We're raising humans, humans who are eventually going to leave our homes and encounter a world that will not always reward their efforts. Sometimes they'll win, sometimes they'll lose, and sometimes they're going to absolutely crush it. And sometimes they're going to flop their 3-meter competition at nationals. And maybe the lesson isn't how do we make sure that never happens again? Maybe the lesson is what do we do next? Because that's resilience. So if you're sitting on the sideline this weekend, or in the stands, or at a pool, or a gym, or a field, and you feel your heart racing like you're the one about to compete, I totally get you. I really get it because that's exactly how I felt every single time she got up on that dive board. But maybe remind yourself this is their journey. We get the incredible privilege of having a front row seat. And our job is not to make sure every chapter ends with a win. Our job is to be there when it doesn't. Because maybe the return on everything we pour into our kids isn't the medal, it's the person they're becoming while chasing it. And maybe the person we are becoming while watching them too. So, this is Struggle and Strength Moms Balancing Out with Nikki. If this episode made you think of another sports mom who's sitting in those stands, living and dying with every score, every goal, every point, and every play, send her this episode because she probably needs the reminder too. And to all of our kids out there doing hard things, keep going, keep going. One bad day doesn't erase how far you've come. And to all the moms sitting on the sidelines, trying desperately not to lose their minds, keep cheering, keep supporting. And every once in a while, remember to breathe. I'll see you the next time.